My name is Finn Donnelly. I'm the Member of Parliament for New Westminster, Coquitlam and Port Moody. And I would like to say to our honored guests, thank you for being here. Today we pay tribute to Lieutenant Augustus McKnight, a fine citizen of Port Moody, who paid the ultimate sacrifice in the First World War. Today we are recognizing Lieutenant McKnight with a plaque at the City of Port Moody's Arts Centre, the old City Hall, and here at the Port Moody Station Museum with McKnight Trench Exhibit official opening ceremony. Port Moody has a proud military tradition, and it is appropriate we pay tribute to those men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces and our veterans for their service to our country and our community. This real-life exhibit will act as a reminder of the conditions that the men and women of Canada's military fought in the First World War. It will also act as an educational opportunity for people today to take a look at what it was like on the front lines of defending our freedoms here in Canada. For that, we say thank you. Thank you to the brave men and women who served our country, many paying the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you to our veterans, some of whom are here today. Thank you to Lieutenant Augustus McKnight for his contribution to Port Moody and to Canada. Thanks are also due to Port Moody Historical Society.
We're not here to promote war. These trenches are not for our communities. We are here to have...
Thanks also are due to Port Moody Historical Society, the Port Moody Station Museum, and to Guy Black and the many volunteers who helped make this trench exhibit possible.
Unfortunately, at this point in the presentation, Mr. Donnelly was interrupted by a couple of possibly well-meaning but certainly misguided and ill-informed individuals who thought that the McKnight Trench was built to promote imperialism. While we at Tri-Cities Community Television support the protesters' desires to see more community gardens, homes for the homeless, reparations paid to the First Nations community, a movement away from fossil fuels, and support of mass transit, if it were run properly, we do not condone their methods in interrupting this event, and unlike the regular media, which seem to focus solely on the protest, we intend to bring you uninterrupted, apart from this announcement, coverage of the McKnight Centennial Trench Ceremony. Tri-Cities Community Television would also like to give those who oppose the construction of the McKnight Trench an opportunity to express and discuss their opinions, should they choose to do so in a fair and respectful manner.
Thank you for your patience. The last thing that I was going to mention was I wanted to acknowledge the cadets for overnighting in the trench and putting I think bringing to attention what it was like, the conditions. And they overnighted last night, so I would like to acknowledge their efforts. And we can see as we witness this demonstration here today that there are many emotions, but I think what this does, this exhibit, is an educational opportunity for people to learn, to understand that we are fighting for freedom, that we are working together for peace, that we are coming together to defend our freedoms, and it's necessary to have these exhibits so that people do understand. So on behalf of the Parliament of Canada, I would like to recognize the McKnight Centennial Trench exhibit officially open. And thanks to everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend. Thank you.
We'd like to ask Mrs. Linda Reimer to come forward now, please.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to bring greetings from the province and from our Premier Christy Clark. This is indeed a momentous occasion as we pay tribute to our local Local fallen hero, Lieutenant Augustus McKnight, Scoutmaster, and he was also a city engineer. Lieutenant McKnight was commissioned as an officer with the 6th Field Company, Canadian Engineers in North Vancouver. He eventually saw service on the Western Front, where he was fatally wounded by an enemy sniper while he was supervising trench construction work. Today, we continue to honor his bravery and accomplishments of all of our veterans, whose sacrifice is forever entwined with all Canadians. They changed our country and our lives irrevocably for the better. Many gave their lives to do so. The Great War brought with it destruction and death on a scale that the world had never seen before, thanks in large part to new technology and trench warfare. And that's one of the purposes of why Guy Black, and I thank him very much, has built these trenches so that we can educate our kids and so that we can get across to them that peace is very, very, very important. Our veterans and our current veterans who are serving now have made great sacrifices to protect our freedom and our democracy. And we need to educate our young people to ensure that we use every other avenue to resolve disputes before we even think about war. Today we honor all of our veterans as well as a member of our forces currently serving throughout the world. They follow a proud tradition of Canadians who served our country so that we may live free. And I want to thank all the cadets who came out here today, and to thank the Port Moody Station Museum and the Port Moody Heritage Society. And in thanks, I would like to present a check for $2,400 from the province of British Columbia. Robert, can you join me, please? This will go towards the purchase of 3 uniforms so that we can complete this educational programming. Thank you.
And now I'd like to call forward Diana Dilworth, please.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Mayor McKnight and Council, I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming out here and standing in the rain and making this significant acknowledgement today. I wanted to especially welcome those that are coming from outside of Port Moody to visit our special community. One of the things we love about Port Moody is how we can respect and acknowledge our history. And in 1914, as part of the British Empire, Canada automatically became involved when Great Britain declared war on Germany. Along with the other nations in the empires, tens of thousands of Canadians joined the army to fight on our behalf. Of those tens of thousands were 55 residents from Port Moody who volunteered to fight in the war. Sadly, 10 of our residents never returned home, having made the highest sacrifice for us. For a city of 250 people at that time, it was a significant loss in time of mourning. One of those 10 men that we lost during the war was Lieutenant Augustus Wilberforce McKnight. McKnight was a local scoutmaster and a city engineer. And earlier today, the city was incredibly proud to unveil a plaque at our original City Hall where he worked, commemorating Augustus, those that served with him, and especially our 10 local men that lost their lives. And now, we honor Augustus and his military colleagues with a project that is incredibly unique. It was last summer that the Port Moody Heritage Society, together with the Port Moody Station Museum and an amazingly dedicated group of volunteers, undertook the Great War Trench Project. Watching the volunteers dig and build the full-size trench, often during winter rains and freezing weather, gives us an idea of some of the conditions that our soldiers endured during combat. Sadly, it was during the supervision of such trench construction that Lieutenant McKnight lost his life, the victim of enemy sniper fire. The dedication of the volunteers who participated in this project cannot be understated in its honor to the 55 Port Moody residents who volunteered their efforts, and in some cases, their lives during the First World War. I'd especially like to acknowledge the dogged determination of Mr. Guy Black and his efforts to honor Lieutenant McKnight and all the soldiers who fought for our freedoms. Thank you, Guy. Thank you to your volunteers. And thank you to Lieutenant Augustus Wilberforce McKnight and his fellow soldiers. The Trench Project is a small but incredibly significant expression of our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gill. I would now like to call forward Mr. Bruce Gibson to say a few words.
Hello, I have the good fortune of working with the Flavel Sawmill Company, and we received a request to donate some building products to help with the trench, and we're quite honored to have been able to do that. So it's an honor for me to be here today to be part of this dedication ceremony. I feel seeing all the great folks with military service here, I feel like I very much don't belong and haven't earned my right to be here, but thank you for having me. I wanted to thank the volunteers who built the trench. Each and every one of you spent countless hours so that we could get a glimpse and try to have a faint understanding of what the realities of war are. I also want to thank the museum and the Heritage Society for allowing the Flavel Sawmill Company to contribute in a very small way to the McKnight Trench. The exhibits of the museum do a great job of connecting folks of Port Moody and, for that matter, the Tri-Cities to the heritage of this area, which was originally an industrial outpost and has now transitioned into the beautiful community that we enjoy today. Our community was built by the contributions and sacrifices of our citizens. The McKnight Trench that is being built here, to me, is a great example of citizens contributing to our community through volunteerism, at the same time honoring the greatest sacrifice that was made by great citizens in our history. So once again, I'd like to say thank you from the Flavel Sawmill Company to the Heritage Society and the Museum for allowing us to contribute in a small way. That's the prepared stuff that I had. The folks on my right and to your left, when they first came up to exercise the right of free speech, quite frankly pissed me off. And mostly the disrespectful timing. And I find myself being incredibly, after having a moment to reflect and try to calm my emotion, really grateful for the people that I see here who served in the military and earned that right for all of us to be here. And we don't have to agree with what's being said, although obviously we all agree with peace, I hope. The disrespectful timing is frustrating, but I'd like to again say thank you to all of our veterans who earned for each and every one of us the right to have free speech. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. If I could ask Mr. Robert Simons to come forward now.
Thank you, and on behalf of the Port Moody Heritage Society and the Station Museum that you're all at, I just want to welcome all of our honored guests, our friends and relatives that are in the audience, our distinguished representatives that are to my left here from our different cadet corps to this significant opening. I have to make a comment with respect to a significance of the day we're at today and the very close proximity it is to a very significant event that occurred that involved our Canadian forces, and that was the Battle of Vimy in World War I. That was basically the culmination, bringing together the Canadian forces for the first time in a concerted battle that basically created what I believe today is the Canada we know of today. And so we are here today to recognize certainly the Augustus McKnight Trench, the trench they're opening, but we're here really to recognize the sacrifices of thousands of people who were either killed or injured or served in all of the wars that Canada has had to participate in, to basically create the country we have today, to allow for such things as we just saw in the last half hour. People can say items specifically for their own specific purposes, but really we all have to recognize everybody has a statement, everybody has a position, but we must do it in a respectful fashion, and I can't speak more specifically about that.
Take the trench out.
We have had a situation, an opportunity here to have significant volunteers who've helped to build this trench, and I'd just like to acknowledge a number of them here. Basically, Guy Black, as we mentioned many times with respect to the dedication and commitment. Three people that have also been very much involved with the actual construction has been Marcus Farner, Sonny's son, and Jim Miller, very specifically involved with the development of this trench. John Cohane, Alan Fox, Carey Price have also been involved very much with the construction. And I think it demonstrates the manual effort that all of those people had to do in World War I to basically build and develop these trenches, basically without really an understanding as to what they were actually going to be creating at the time. Also, I'd like to acknowledge some of our volunteers here at the museum, Peter Hebert, Garrett DeWall, Dave Maxwell, specifically for the work they've helped in supporting this project. Guy's two sons, Sean and Cameron, have been here for the duration, also helping in building it. And I also like to acknowledge Brianne Miguel, who's a member of our staff. But more specifically, I want to acknowledge the cadets. The cadets from a number of different groups that have been here, that have spent nights here, spent afternoons here, days here, that have helped construct this. And I just believe that really it demonstrates that, you know, we are having an opportunity here to remember, but we're also having an opportunity to celebrate the youth of our country and what they do. So again, on behalf of the Port Moody Heritage Society, welcome to our museum, welcome to the trends that you'll be about seeing in a short while, and thank you for all coming, because it really is an opportunity for us to remember, recognize, and understand the sacrifices being made by people that have made our country what it is today. Thank you very much.
I'd like to acknowledge the connection that the engineers have had with the city of Port Moody and bring us to reflect on the impact that war has had not only on the city of Port Moody but on all of us. Now, the engineers have had a long and proud connection with the Lower Mainland and Port Moody. In the mid-1800s, when all around us was wilderness, the engineers were called upon to map out and construct roadways for the swift movement of goods and the military in order to have a quick response should the need arise. Port Moody was in fact named after Richard Moody, who, while being the first Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia, was also a colonel in the Royal Engineers. He commanded the Columbia Detachment, the force that was brought to BC to establish British order during the Fraser Canyon Gold Rush. The engineers have a proud history of serving Canada and British Columbia from the early origins of our province. Another engineer, Lieutenant Augustus Wilberforce McKnight, also served Canada and British Columbia, making the ultimate sacrifice in World War I. August 4th, 2014 marked the 100th anniversary of the beginning of the First World War. That war was a different kind of war for people at that time. Many men raced up to sign up before the war was over. It was thought that the war would be over by Christmas, and no one wanted to miss it. Fortune and glory. Let us put this into perspective. I'd like everyone to look around them and notice anyone, including yourselves, who appear to be between the ages of 19 and 50. If you were male, 3/4 of you would have either enlisted or have been conscripted for frontline duty. If you're female, you would have served in the home or in support of the men in the front lines. In subsequent wars, you would begin to take your place fighting in the front lines alongside the men. All who fought in the trenches, for all of those people, 1/4 of you would have been killed in action. So look around you. If you're between the ages of 19 and 50, 1 in 4 of you would have been killed in action. Of those who remained, half of you would receive injuries that were so severe that you could no longer fight, or in many cases find anything meaningful to do after the war, as you have been crippled. Of the 1/4 that remains, you would have returned home either uninjured or with minor wounds, but you would likely have had psychological problems. I would now like you to think of young people between the ages of 14 and 18. People you know, kids at home, family, friends, and just look at our cadets over here. A great number would have run away from home to join the war. Now imagine these young people in uniforms, carrying rifles, living in filth, being hungry, being sick, killing people, and being killed. And the majority would never come home. That was the reality of World War I. The First World War, the Great War, was war on a scale that the world had never seen before. Place names such as Ypres, the Somme, Passchendaele, Hill 70, the Salient, St. Julian, Vimy Ridge should cause a shudder to go through us, and we should become sick to our stomachs. Death and destruction was so vast and hideous that it was declared the war to end all wars. And trench warfare was the norm during that war. It was a war that had become bogged down, and leaving the trench to capture an enemy trench resulted in high casualties. Staying in trenches brought sickness, hunger, boredom, and death. Through that horror, men suffered in trenches, much like the McKnight trench that we are dedicating today. When we walk through this trench, let us give a thought to those who lived each moment wondering if they, like Lieutenant McKnight, were going to be shot by a sniper, have a shell land on them, and when they went out of the trench to go over the top, would they live to see another day? Imagine living under those conditions for over 4 years. Let us give thanks to the sacrifice that those veterans and veterans of all wars have made on our behalf. Let us remember them now and always. Let there always be peace, and let war never come again. Now, the trench exhibit will be open to the public until November 2018. And the Port Moody Station Museum will fly the flags of Belgium and the Royal Canadian Engineers beside the flag of our nation from today until November 11th, 2018. I would like everyone at this point to stand, please, as we raise the flags. I would now like to ask Cadet Sergeant Fang to read the names of Port Moody's war dead from the First World War.
Ben, easy.
F. Burnett, W. Dunn, S. Lewis, A. W. McKnight, L. F. Robertson, W. Taylor, W. M. Davis, A. Grass, E. Martin, and A. Trepanier.